All right, folks, welcome back to the channel. It's time to get moving on our next project. We are finally going to get to the sidecar. After months and months of waiting and interruptions with hurricanes and storms and hemorrhoids and, well, maybe not hemorrhoids, but certainly hurricanes and storms, we're going to get this thing taken apart and we are going to put it on the lift. And what I mean by apart is we're going to separate the chair from the bike, sidecar from the bike. And we're going to get just the bike up on the lift, set the sidecar aside. And we're going to do this right. Carbs need to come off again. I will link in the description to the other videos where we did this before. And I found these seized slow jets. We're going to solve that. Not that it runs bad at an idle. It runs worse at wide open throttle. So we're going to finally figure out what's wrong with this thing. But it's so hard to do it with the sidecar in place because I got to access the right side of the bike. We're just going to get rid of it. And again, put it up on the lift. We'll fold the sides down so we can get right up close and personal. But because there's a lot of other stuff that I'm going to be doing on this bike, some of it on camera, probably most off, that I just need to take care of little things that have been bugging me. But I'll go over those at a later time. So let's go ahead and set you up and we'll get the sidecar split. I'll give you a brief overview how that works in this janky setup. And it is kind of janky. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I'd do it differently. But it's kind of a shame because the weather's perfect for riding this thing. And that's got to go into the dealer for a small repair. If it turned into a big repair, this would be the only thing I have to drive. So take kind of a chance. But all they're going to be doing is replacing a seat belt retractor on the passenger side that's triggering my service airbag system light. So hopefully that's all it is. But this is the time of year to ride, sure, but it's perfect weather to work as well. I think it was in the 50s this morning. So let's go ahead and split her, get her up, and then we'll get to work. Well, we are going to have to disconnect a number of things, and I'm not going to go over it in great detail because it would take me forever to film it and do it. So I'm just going to give you the overview and maybe some time warp, and that's about it. All right, besides the main connections, we got to get the rear brake cable for the sidecar wheel off, which is pretty easy. I redid that not too long ago, maybe a year and a half ago. It's pretty easy to disconnect that now and not have a complete hassle getting it readjusted. And then just it's attached down there as a cable restraint. That comes off real quick. The wiring is all set up with trailer plugs like that and like that. So that's a 4-pin, that's a 2-pin. And then we'll just unplug those. I have to disconnect the sway bar just from here. It's not a big deal. And then a couple other small things. Then we can just do the main mounts, the upper rear, front and rear as well. But the way I do this is kind of different. I actually put the bike up on the center stand because once you disconnect everything, it's going to fall over. It's kind of a gravity thing. So I put it up on the center stand, which raises the bike up a little higher. And then it makes it harder to get the, these mounts off because then they're kind of torqued and angled in. So I actually take my lift table over there. We slip the lift table under. I can't remember if I did it from the back with some blocks of wood to clear the sway bar from the side. I don't remember, but we'll do that. Just lift it up a little bit, disconnect it, and then just use the roller table to roll it around. It's going to ultimately go up there in front of the concourse because I'm going to be using that here pretty soon, I think, on some local stuff. So we'll back that out first, get it out of the way, and ultimately the sidecar is going to get tucked up there. Ichabod, you got to get your toy out of here, buddy. Come here. Come here, get your toy. This thing takes forever to go down. We'll give it a little bit of ballast. He loves that little lamb chop toy. Well, this don't go there. I thought it did. I can't remember. I think it goes from the side, actually. I know it'll just fit underneath it. We can get enough of it to pick the thing up. Sorry about my fat head. And the cart is underneath this side. I can't get it directly underneath the access to the wheel, so it's kind of twisting the chair in relationship to the bike, which the geometry is off anyway because it's on the center stand. So I'm just trying to match that geometry. So the solution to this is a little jiggling. That's all you gotta do. See, it wants to push up. Sorry about that. It wants to push up a little bit. Just again, the geometry's off because of the way it's set up on the center stand. So now we got the uppers, or we will have the uppers out. Nothing's gonna go anywhere. It's not really that hard. It's just I can't remember how to do it. This should be pretty easy now. All right, so nothing's technically connecting it except maybe a little friction between the mounts and so forth. So what you do with this, pop that one back. Now it's just a matter of taking a little weight off of it. Yeah, come on, you. All right, so here's the problem. When you separate the front lower, she just wants to go breep, and that was putting pressure upwards because you see how it's teeter-tottering? So now I remembered I had to put a strap across it the last time I did this. That's what we're gonna do. We'll also put a quick clamp on it like this. And there you go. Now we can move it out and then we can pull it sideways. And almost. Come on, baby. Lord have mercy. What in the hell is hanging this thing up?
What the hell?
I give up. Well, I finally got it, but I had to bring it in this way, and I honestly don't remember if I had to do that last time. I can't remember back then. How in the hell did I do it last time? I honestly don't know. Maybe I did do it from this side, you know, slide it around on jack stands like I did here and then pick it up. I don't know. I just can't remember. So at least that's done. But another mistake I made was I didn't take the ballast out of the trunk. There was junk in the trunk basically. Now it's okay. We got it off, but that's an hour and a half I'll never get back in my life. So. Freaking bike is heavy. Of course, when you're my age, Jiffy Pop popcorn is heavy. All right, got the seat off, got the tank off, the main tank that is. Nothing to see there. Let's go ahead and get it up in the air and we'll drop the sides and then we'll get into it a little further. Okay. All right, so there was actually very little fuel left in the main tank. I have been running this thing, but off of the reserve tank. Basically, if I thought it was getting down low, where it would trigger the low fuel sensor, I would just add a little bit into the main tank, and you can hear it kind of bloop, 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 because it's a little bit low in here, and purging that air out, and when it stops, you're pretty much at the end of this hose. So I just run it for a while, go down to the store or whatever, and then just do it that way. So there might have been 2 cups of fuel in it, so no big deal. It was actually pretty easy to do. Yeah, so let me tell you what we're gonna do. Obviously, you know about the carbs. We're gonna do everything we gotta do to take the carbs out. Drain the cooling system. I'm pulling the bypass tubes. I wanna do some work in here, which I'll get to in a second. And I've tried fixing this a couple times because there's an oozing coolant leak, and I'll go over it here in a minute. But I think we're gonna have to do a bunch of stuff. The main problem with the fuel system is internally, or there's a problem with the carb holders, and it's so hard to get the carbs back on with the sidecar in. I don't think I got them seated right. I may have folded over one edge so you can't really see, and it might be a little vacuum leak, or maybe we do have a slide problem, even though I replaced those on the last videos. Link in the description. And I want to get those stuck slow jets out. And again, they're in the last couple of videos, 2 or 3 videos I did a year or so ago on this, taking the carbs out. Got to get them out. It's bugging the hell out of me. If I had to clean those circuits thoroughly, there's no way to do it really effectively with the jets in. So we're going to split the rack. I have everything I need to split the rack. The O-rings that go between the T's and the joints, or I think it's just T's on this. We're going to split the rack. We're going to have, if we have to heat up that spot with a torch, we're going to get them out. We're going to get the jets out, probably replace the slow jets, and then clean these things up. So we're going to get all that stuff done. but mainly it's the carbs. But there's some other things too, which I may or may not shoot on camera, and is the wiring. Now, this thing has coilover plugs, as you can see, and I'll go over that at some point in one of these videos, because I'm sure this is going to be more than one video on this job. But the coilover plugs are fired by these spark boxes that are USB programmable from v4spark.com. He does not make them or sell them anymore, to my understanding, because his website's down. I found an archive of the website so I could get all the wiring diagram. We are going to rewire this whole thing. I do not like the way I did the wiring the first time. It's sloppy. It looks like crap. And I've got wire for it, some nice insulated 2-conductor 20 gauge, I think it is, which is fine for this. And then we're going to rewire all that. Maybe a little on camera, maybe off. That's going to be after I get all the carb stuff done and we put it back together and run it, see how it runs. And then I'm going to take care of all the ancillary crap. But we're definitely going to take care of that while everything's apart, because I'm just sick of looking at it. Whenever I pull the seat, it makes me nauseated. This is just a rat's nest. So we're going to clean all this up. This is just not good. Fuses over here and there for this and that, and the stereo, and there's also, you know, a relay in for the coils, I should say. I think that's this. We're going to redo all that, get it all wired up nice, because I just don't like the way it came out, and I've been wanting to do that for a long time. This is the time to do it. There's a couple other small things. We'll just go over it maybe at that time when I get to it. I'm not really sure yet. Focus on this right now as far as the main part of the video. This is more interesting to people than electrical anyway, unless it's a diagnostic thing, and it's not a diagnostic thing. This thing runs, you know, pretty good, except when you get on it, and then we're going to solve that with hopefully getting in these carbs. That's the Reader's Digest version. There is a few other things that have been bugging me. Oh yeah, I want to mention this. There is a pesky oozing coolant leak coming around these caps that bypass between the two sides of the engine. You can see a little shiny in there, I think. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out where that's coming from. I clean it and I run it for a while. I keep looking. I don't see anything. Then I guess it sits, cools down, and it's definitely coolant. And I just cannot figure out what it is. So the only thing I can think of is that these caps, which have O-ring grooves in them, are warped. And I think what we're going to end up doing is trying to put them in the mill and just take like 5/1000ths off to bring that O-ring a little prouder to the body of the things. I have another engine out in the shed, so if I screw them up, I can just pull the caps off of that and reuse them. And that may be an option too, to do that. But we're going to try to fix that as well, because that just irritates the crap out of me. There's also, when I replaced the cooling lines with those silicone ones, everything was all together when I did it. And that's a real difficult, you know, I'm talking about carbs and stuff. That's difficult to do, to get it one of the cooling lines on the other side. Well, I don't have a sidecar over here. I can show you that. These cooling lines over here, from the bypass hose, I'd say really not bypass, just connects the front cylinders to the rear. This hose in here is very hard to get at that clamp, just the way I put it in, that hose clamp. That needs to be reclocked, so I got to take all this apart anyway. We're going to just fix these stupid pesky problems that are just irritating me. But mainly it's the carbs. So let's go ahead. I'm going to tear down. I'm not going to show any of this because you've seen it before in other videos. Air box, drain the cooling system, get the radiator out of the way. I think I'll just bring you up to the point where we're getting ready to pull the carbs, because that is something I missed on the other videos, because I pushed the button to record and it didn't record, or the clip came out like shit and I couldn't use it. So that I will show, because it did not get shown at all in those other videos. So we'll bring you up to that point and then we'll pop the carbs off. While we get to that point, I'm going to remove the choke cable here, the enricher cable, and that's something I forgot to mention before. I want to replace this cable and return the cable location to its proper location, which is integrated into the clutch master cylinder. So this is what I've been using all this time. I got this from Dime City years ago, Dime City Cycle, because the throttle cable was actually damaged, and the part on the master cylinder, you can kind of see it right there. That's where the little lever would normally go, underneath this cover, and this was broken. And so I just had to come up with something. So I have a whole new a replacement, not new, but a replacement master cylinder ready to go. We'll take the guts out of this one. That loose? No. We'll take the guts out of this one, put it in that one, and we're going to be putting the normal little lever thing that's integrated in there. We're going to discard this cable because this cable's no good. I already have a new cable. and it's already disconnected down in here. All right, folks, getting ready to pull these carbs. I'm going to go over the steps with you step by step and exactly what the service manual says. If you can do it differently, that's fine, because the carbs have to come out the right side according to the service manual. And I know for a fact that on this 82 Magna, when I first got it, I tried taking the carbs out the left side. They will not go. Even when these coolant bypass lines are removed, they will not come out the left side. And if they were able to come out the left side, you wouldn't have to take these lines out at all, but we'll get to that in a second. So this is what the service manual says to do. Obviously, we removed all the crap that is either on top or attached to the carburetors and the air box and the fuel lines and all that stuff. What you have to do is you have to loosen your band clamps. Let's start with number 2. You loosen the band clamps on the carburetor side only. You loosen them, you leave the ones on the cylinder head side tight and loosen them on the carb side. So that's the front cylinders on number 2 and number 4. And on the rear cylinder, number 1 and number 3 cylinders rather, you loosen both the band clamps. Because ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to pop the carburetors away from the carb holder on number 2, and you're going to do the same up here, but you're going to actually remove the carb holders completely on 1 and 3. That's what the manual says to do. Manual says not only do that, but actually to remove these bands and the carb holders on the rear cylinders. So this is cylinder 1 and cylinder 3. You will be leaving the carb holder with the carb holder still attached to the cylinder head. You can take that off later. That's what the service manual says to do. Now, before you slide these things out, you have to disengage these coolant bypass lines. I'm sorry about the light, it's not that good, but you got one up in here and you got one down here that you can see a lot better. Now again, I'll show you a clip here in a second on the right side as to why you have to take those out. They won't go that way because of interference. But before you start reaching in here, and you have to have tiny hands to get in here, you want to pop the carbs loose first and kind of raise them up out of the way. That gives you a lot more room to get in there and take that 8mm headed M6 bolt out on each one of those little clips that holds these pipes in. Then you can get the pipes out, and then you can take the carbs out the right side. You do not have to take this bypass out to take the carbs out. Only this one and this one up in here. You're not going to be able to get at throttle cables when the carbs are mounted at all. There is no physical way to get at them. You might be able to if you had tiny hands, or you can miniaturize yourself. I don't know if you can pull them this way first to disengage them. I don't remember that part, but you're because you know they are toward the left side of the carb rack. They're closer to number 3 than they are to a number 1 rather than number 3. So I don't remember that part, but we'll do it. We'll get them off somehow. But you have to get the throttle cables off with the carbs disengaged and kind of moved over to the side, one way or the other. I don't remember which. I know that because I had to replace throttle cables, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that without taking the carbs out. Let me show you on the other side as to what the obstructions are, as to why you have to take these bypass tubes out at all. Because if they did come out the left side, and they might on yours, you never know, but on mine they won't. I've tried that before. If they did come out the left side, you wouldn't have to do this, and I'll show you why. Well, you got all this stuff on the right side. You got this. This isn't such a big deal because it's a little bit below, but you got this part that goes up to the thermostat off the rear cylinders 1 and 3, and of course that's going to interfere with the carbs coming out the right side. So that's why they say to take that off. So we got the top one loosened on both sides, bottom one's tight, and all of them on the back side. All I'm going to do is take Big Bertha here. I'm going to reach in and I'm going to start levering up on these things and start getting them moving. I've already put a little silicone spray in there, and we'll just kind of lever them and we'll be able to get them to pop out. 2 and 4 seem to work pretty good for me to get these things out. Maybe because the angle, kind of downdraft carbs, you know, the way they're set up. But if you're going to do this, you just have to be really careful in doing it, what you're prying on. And then you'll be able to get them out. Number 4 one just popped up. Let's get number 2 to pop up. And there it goes. So it's really not too much to it. Now when you go to put them back in, we'll cover that at that time. And I did show that to some decent degree in the other videos on this. But it's a little different. I'll show you at that time. I don't want to confuse you at this point. Now we still got to pop out 1 and 3, but they're going to come out pretty easy at this point because you got enough slack. See how that one just comes out like that now? Now on a bike that's been sitting 40 years, this is probably going to be harder. But I had these out not too long ago, and you spray a little silicone spray on them. It helps you out a lot. And we'll go ahead and get this. So now the carbs are free to navigate except for the throttle cables are still hooked up. I want to kind of hold these up. They might stay up on their own, so I can reach in here. I can't show this, there's no room to get in here and get these little bolts out. I can put my finger on it. It's an 8 mil, that's the tool size. You said tool, and an M6. With the carbs able to be moved a little bit like this, you know, it's a lot easier. And if you want, we could try this since we are sitting here. Now I haven't taken off the carb holders yet. We could do that on 1 and 3, and then we'll try taking it out the left side. So we'll do it. And this is just not a whole lot of room here. We'll get the band clamps off first, because that's what the service manual says to do. Got to kind of finagle them in just the right position, and you can get these clamps out of the way. This one will come off when we pop the carb holder off. Then we can just get Bertha in there again. Sorry about my face. And we'll just pop the carb holders off. I can't get in here with this. Let me get something different. It's too big.
Yes!
Haven't heard that before. There we go. See, once you get the right tool where you can fit the tip just for a second, and it will come off. That's why they say take the band clamp off as well, but you can do it. I gotta move you out of the way a little bit. I don't have the vent hose off yet either. I forgot to do that. But you can get these out here. Just have to kind of force them. And there you go. Now I'm gonna replace these anyway, because I have brand new ones, but I'm looking for any evidence that like a little edge has been folded over. I don't see one yet, at least on this. Now before you do anything else, plug that hole too. You don't want to take a chance of anything getting down in there. There's plenty of room to stick a tampon in there, so you just go ahead and do her. So I'll go over on the other side, I'll get that carb holder off. This bike at least, they won't come out the left side. On others, they might. Okay, if they did, we wouldn't have to take anything else off. I got a tampon in the other hole too. If we try to go this side, we try to take them out the left, they just won't go. They just don't fit. Now I am hitting throttle cables here, so that's the main problem. So maybe if we go to the right a little bit, maybe we can get the, see, I don't think we can get the cables off without going further right. There's just no way to get at those. I mean, maybe that's why, you know what? It might be the only thing that they say to get it to the right is because you can't get at these throttle cables. We can definitely get the cables out of their holder up here and let them fall over to the side. Let's try that. We can get in here to do that. I have read comments from other people saying that they have taken them out this left side before. I still don't think they'll come this way. Yeah, it gets so far, this cylinder over here just jams up. They just don't fit this way. But the nice thing about it is now they're kind of jammed up in the air. They're not really jammed, just kind of resting. So now we can just kind of leave them right there, and I can get those bypasses out. That's not a bad idea to do it that way, actually, because you can get at everything mainly from the other side because they're kind of tilted and angled that way. Yeah, so it's hitting number 3 right there, and it's hitting number 4 right there against the side of the cam chain tunnel. So it just doesn't come this way. But you can really get some decent access to these now just by pushing it over that way. So there's one right there, and there's one right there. I'll go do that. We'll pop these bypasses out, and we'll go ahead and take them out the right side. They're still not the easiest thing in the world. I may have to remove my sidecar upper mount for the front upper. All done. This is what they look like. This is the one from the rear, the 1 and 3s. I failed to order O-rings for these. I thought I had a set. Then I realized that these are that set. And a couple of times ago where I was in here for something, I used these. They're not bad. I'm going to order them anyway. I guarantee Partzilla has them because they're used probably in a zillion other things. I'm going to replace some bolts and things like that too that I just are all rusty. And I replaced all these the last time I was in here trying to dress it up. So little bolts and screws and things like that. I'm going to make a list and put another Partzilla order in. We'll go ahead and get those O-rings coming as well. This is definitely the way to get at these though. Shove it over to the left side like you're trying to get it out the left side kind of hangs in that position. And then you can reach right in here from the right side and get these two 8mm, well, they're M6s, but 8mm headed bolts. I'd look through my stash. I've got two new ones for that. So I'm going to go ahead and replace those. You can see they come right out the right side. See how difficult they are to get at. So they're pretty much impossible to get with the carbs installed. So if you got to change your cables, do it now. Do it. It's an imperative. But I already did it, so I'm not having to worry about that. They come right out the right side, just like the service manual says. You see? You're seeing it just like I am. All right, let's go over some observations, and then what we're going to do is we're going to close this out as part 1 on this Magna job, and we'll come back to part 2 when we get into the carbs themselves. Never mind this stuff, because this is for my top-end oil bypass, the Dave Dodge old oil bypass system that he used to sell. Rest his soul, I understand he died a couple of years ago. So this is something that you won't have if you have a stock Magna. You'll have a steel oil line that comes up, actually comes over from the transmission. There's a spot over there that I have capped off with a banjo and like a spacer, and it will come around and it'll feed up to the locations like right here and over here for the oil for the top end. So never mind that. But as far as the rest of it goes, it's going to be just like you'd have it on a Magna that you may be working on for the first time. And if you are working on it for the first time and you're going to get these tubes out, I'm going to tell you right now that if it's been sitting for a while, these suckers are going to be in so tight and all corroded in that you probably end up destroying these tubes getting them out. You're going to end up having to heat the crap out of them, use penetrating oil, and taking your time. You might be able to save them. Chances are you're going to destroy them, so go on eBay and find a good pair ahead of time. I'm telling you right now. The only reason why these came out easily is because I've had them out a few times over the years for various tasks, like carburetor work and so forth. That's the only reason why. They will be corroded in if it's been sitting, even with coolant in it, good coolant. And speaking of good coolant, this coolant doesn't look so good. Let's finish up with this first. So that's going to be a problem. Check these bores out where those things go. Make sure they're not completely, smoked. I don't know what you're going to do if they are. Probably have to use some sealant to back up the O-rings, but mine are in pretty good shape, so I'm not going to worry about them. This is the part that I'm going to take off. Might show a little of that and try to correct this, because see how it's wet down inside there? It's not oozing from here. I have double, triple checked that. I'm pretty sure I put this pipe in between those two caps last time with some Honda Bond HT or something, because I want to make sure that wasn't leaking. There's an O-ring and the groove is on the cap side, and I think the caps are just worn, or maybe they're not putting enough pressure on the O-ring. So we're going to try to correct that. This comes right up from the water pump, by the way. It provides water right from the water pump into the engine, circulates it around, goes to the radiator, and comes back. So on that side. So this is a critical part, obviously. Since it comes right off the water pump, it's got the pressure side, highest pressure side of the water pump going at it as far as the flow goes. I want to figure this out if it's the last damn thing I do. And it's not my little bracket here, because that's just a longer bolt. It's not that at all. The screws are dead-headed. They're not into the block, blind holes. So it isn't that. It's just leaking around these things, and I'm sick of it. So we'll fix that as well. So that's what you want to look for if you're going to take one of these apart for the first time. You're going to really fight these. I guarantee you're going to fight these. Take your time with them. You might be able to save them. They bend super, super easy. So be careful. Let me get my tampons back in. Me and tampons, I want to make sure there's no problems. I'll pull these carb holders off another time. It's getting late in the day, so I'm going to finish up for the day. And like I said, we'll close this out as part 1. But we'll get into it a little further. There's a lot of other stuff we need to do on this bike. All right, folks, that does it for part 1 on this job. Like I said just a moment ago, there's a lot of stuff I need to do, and a lot of it's going to happen off camera. I'm not going to film it all. But I'm going to give you the main information I think that you're going to want, that I've had the most questions on, which is about these carbs. Taking them out and showing you in detail just now was one of those questions that unfortunately somehow it got I blew it on the other videos. I don't know what happened. The clip didn't record or something. I don't know. But now you got an idea how to take these out. The main problem is the water pipes. I think if something's been sitting for a while, and I've already explained what you need to do with that, so just be careful and move on from there. In part 2, what we're going to do is we're going to go right into the carbs, and we're going to tear them down to bits, like we did the VFR 750F, the last video I put out. And I'll show you the differences between like an old V4 carb rack that I have here, and of course you can refer to that video and see those differences firsthand if you haven't watched it already. There's major differences between the two, but then again there's major similarities as well. There'll probably be a part 3 as well afterwards. But in order for you to see all that stuff, you need to stick around. And so you need to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. You get notified when I put more junk like this up, and any other junk that I'm doing or projects I'm doing, like I'm going to be doing some work on that mill eventually with variable frequency drive. So we got some stuff going on, and you stick around and enjoy it, and I hope to see you on the next video. Until then, as always, don't just repair, restore. Thanks for watching.